Some of you have heard me say that my reconversion happened some 12 years ago. After a couple of years of researching, meditating, and praying about who Jesus was, I found myself spiritually cornered. I felt that God had patiently been waiting, but that it was time for me to answer His invitation. Was I in or was I out? I answered, and my life has never been the same again. In our lives, we all go through some important and intense moments. Those are moments when we are faced with a question that demands an answer that cannot be postponed. We even give those moments a name. We refer to them as moments of decision. What makes those moments intense is that we recognize in them two things: that we are faced with an unavoidable question and that the answer will change the rest of our lives. Examples of those situations are events such as choosing a college major, accepting a job offer, or buying a house. We know that our answer will impact our lives in the long term. Examples of even more important events are things like a marriage proposal. We know that our answer will determine the rest of our life. And then there is the ultimate question: God's invitation. We know that the answer will determine the rest of our eternity. Today is the last Sunday of Advent. For the last 4 weeks, we have been preparing ourselves for the birth of Christ. That moment when God's miraculous incarnation becomes visible to the whole world. And today the Gospel takes us back to the moment of God's incarnation in Mary's womb, at the time of the Annunciation. It takes us back to the time when Mary was presented with an unavoidable question: do you accept Jesus? This question to Mary was of vital importance because in her answer hinged the coming of our Savior. Which begs the question: how could God place our salvation at the mercy of the answer of a 15-year-old girl? And puzzling as it is, the answer is that this is the way God has always operated with us. Being love, God chose to save us through love. But love requires our ability to choose it. Love is never forced, but always freely given and freely received. That is why, in order to become flesh, God did not impose Himself on Mary. Even though He had chosen her, God waited for Mary to choose Him. It is said that when Gabriel announced to Mary what God expected of her, eternity stood still while all heaven waited for Mary to respond. A lot was at stake, and the heavens held their breath waiting for Mary's answer. I can just imagine the joy and celebration as the heavens heard Mary's yes. And what does this have to do with us? Everything. You see, some things never change. God is still calling us to Him, one person at a time. And the stakes continue to be just as high. Mary's yes opened the door to Christ's incarnation. It opened the door for God to become flesh, and as flesh, to die for us and redeem us. It opened the door for God to offer to us the gift of His salvation. But like any other gift, it is not really ours until we accept it. And so, God now presents his gift to each one of us. The question first presented to Mary is now presented to us. Do you accept Jesus? Do you accept his gift of salvation, even if that might turn your life upside down? Do you accept him as your God, even if that means stepping out of the comfort of your own control and plunging into the waters of his grace? This Advent, we too have our own Annunciation. This Advent, we too have our own moment of decision. It is no longer Gabriel, the one who appears to us, but it is Christ himself. It is Jesus who appears to us in the homeless on the streets, in the suffering at the hospitals, in the lonely at the nursing homes. Do you accept him? The heavens stand still, waiting for your answer.